Hello, and welcome to the State of Soy. I'm your host, Aaron Putsey. When the Iowa Soybean Association says our customers are real pigs, we mean it. Truth be told, it's not just pigs, but poultry, cattle, sheep, and fish too. Globally, the livestock and poultry sectors are the U.S. soybean farmers' #1 customer, consuming 97% of U.S. soybean meal. Poultry continue to be the single largest domestic user of soybean meal, consuming more than half of all meal. Swine is next, consuming the meal from about 1 of every 3 bushels. Closer to home, Iowa's pig herd consumes more than 150 million bushels of soybeans annually. That's about 27% of the 560 million bushels of soybeans farmers grew in 2018. With soybean prices at 10-year lows, the last thing farmers need is a ding on demand. Yet that's exactly what's occurring with an outbreak of African swine fever in China. Yet there's also positive news, including growth in livestock and poultry production and processing right here in Iowa and in the Midwest. More specifically, a new pork harvesting facility near Belmont and expanded poultry production and processing in western Iowa and eastern Nebraska. Joining us to share their expertise on issues directly impacting soybean demand and prices are Brian Waddingham, Executive Director of the Coalition to Support Iowa's Farmers; Dr. David Pyburn, the National Pork Board's Senior Vice President of Science and Technology; and Lindsey Greiner, President of the Iowa Soybean Association and farmer from Keota. So, David, I want to start with you in this, and you know, making the headlines right in there. There was a lot of concern. The World Pork Expo was canceled as a result. African swine fever. Tell us, what is it?
African swine fever is a severe hemorrhagic virus of pigs. The good news is we've never had it here in the United States. Further good news is it still doesn't exist in this hemisphere. It used to be down in on the island of Hispaniola and also down in South America, but it was eradicated from there about 50 years ago, and we have not seen it come back. We don't want to see it come back because this virus is so severe in pigs. Now, I want to make it really clear that the virus is only a virus of pigs. It only infects swine. Doesn't infect your pets, doesn't infect people, but when it does infect swine, it usually results in a hemorrhagic death of those pigs.
And in China, which is the world's #1 pork producer, and it's not even close, this has broke. Give us a little bit of the chronology in what's taking place in China, and of course with exports of soybeans so critical from the U.S. to China, any disruption in pig production in that country is going to be felt here at home by soybean farmers. So give us a little bit of an update on the ground.
I would imagine that the soybean market over here is already feeling it because China reported back in August the first reported outbreak of African swine fever in the country. It's probable that it was there before that, on a lot more farms spread throughout a good portion of China. But after that August announcement, what we saw was it started out, the reports came from the northern provinces of China, moved to the south because a lot of those northern pigs move a long ways to the south to go to slaughter, and they were moving that virus as they moved those pigs down to slaughter. But now, as we sit here today, it's across the entire country of China. Almost every province has reported an outbreak, including one of their islands as well has reported an outbreak of African swine fever. I'm judging from what I'm hearing from veterinarians that are over in that country, they're probably under-reporting the total number of pigs affected and total number of farms affected. This is something that is going to devastate a good portion of that Chinese industry, and it's something that they're not going to be able to eradicate in short order.
So, Lindsey, you traveled to China a couple of months ago, and we took all the precautions necessary. We didn't visit any farms. We didn't visit any feed mills. We stayed in the urban centers only. But you had a lot of questions when we were visiting with soybean processors and feed mill operators there. What did you come back hearing from those conversations about this disease and how it could impact you as a soybean farmer?
Well, we were trying to get a handle on how big of an impact this disease was having on their hog herd. And we got varying reports, all the way from 13% to 30%. So you sit there and wonder, well, I wonder which one of those is right. I hope it's 13. Even 13% of their hog herd is a big number. You take that to 30, I mean, it's a huge number. It's 1.5 times as many hogs as we raise in this country.
Right.
So we kind of left there not knowing for sure what the real number was, but we knew it was bad. Even on the low end, it was bad. As a soybean farmer, I know we're talking about livestock today, but as a soybean farmer, you think, wow, you talk about piling on. We've got tariffs to deal with, and now we've got a loss of demand. You take 1.5 times the herd that we grow in the United States, and you just eliminate it. They don't need that much bean meal anymore. So that makes negotiations on a trade deal even more difficult.
And we know there's going to be contraction there on the soybean. There just has to be when you see a ding like that in the world's largest hog herd.
And we tried to get an idea of how you depopulate. How soon can you repopulate these farms? Can you get a vaccine? Can you manage it? What are the biosecurity measures you're going to take? They really couldn't answer any of those questions because they just don't know.
So the question now comes to, we know that there is a real challenge there in China because of all of the way they transport pork, the way that the pork production is so immersed throughout the countryside, and we know that China is trying to make their pork operations more efficient and addressing issues like biosecurity. But here at home, Brian, as executive director of an organization that's all about helping farmers grow their livestock herds, have you seen or experienced any increase in the number of calls from hog farmers who, because of maybe what's taking place in other countries, are looking to maybe boost their hog herds here in Iowa?
Well, Aaron, that's a great question. We have seen an uptick in hog calls the month of April, which could be well to do with what's going on in China right now. But we're also seeing an increase in cattle calls, poultry calls, and fish and shrimp calls as well. So it could be a timing issue, or it could be, hey, maybe we need to think ahead here and start banking up some protein because we think there could be a real demand for it down the road.
And as we think about the long-term challenge here, obviously there could be some increased calls and some interest here in the near term, but long term, Dave, what's the prognosis for this disease in China and getting on top of it?
Yeah, Lindsay spoke a little bit to repopulation. We know of farms over there. There are higher, more commercial, more biosecure farms that have depopulated, have gone through disinfection procedures, have tried to repopulate, and they've broken again. So far, I have not heard, as I speak to veterinarians that travel over to China, I have not heard of any farms that were able to clean up, repopulate, and stay negative. So I think long term, this is something they're going to have to battle with. And in addition to individual farms, their individual commercial farms, China has a very large feral swine population. I don't know for sure. I haven't seen reports of it getting into it, but I think we have to assume it's probably in that feral swine population. China also has a very large population of backyard farms that they don't even know exist. And we're hearing that it definitely is in those farms. Those are some of the folks that are maybe moving it from province to province and spot to spot and reinfecting new areas. I think it's going to be a long time before China gets this under control.